Good morning, beloved. Thank God it's Friday, huh? 2 weeks in. That's 2 weeks of live streams. We are on number, 14 today? Man, this is fun. I've really been enjoying this, and I just am so excited for the future. Today is always the most... Mom, are you going to come down and visit us? Today is the best day of the week. It is the eve of the Holy Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath, or the keeping of the Sabbath, is something that is a little bit unusual to a lot of Western Christians, or things that maybe they haven't heard of before, and the debate rages on back and forth. If you're not aware of it, if we go back to the very first book of the Bible, Genesis, is it Genesis? No, Exodus, sorry. If we go to the commandments, if we go to the Old Testament, where we have the 10 commandments, the fourth commandment starts with this very interesting word, and it is remember. Why? Why is that the only of the 10 commandments that starts with the word remember? Well, I think God knew that in the latter days we would have forgotten something. Now, there are a lot of people that will tell you that that's been done away with and the day has been moved to Sunday. Not so, beloved, not so. It's very important. A lot of people are waking up to this fact and realize that they've been bamboozled, and I came to that realization, or Mrs. W and I, about 10 years ago from deep study. I didn't want to do it either. I didn't want to become a pariah, but I think it is very important. Now, if this is something you've never heard of, even if you are not a person of the book, or maybe are a traveler that is searching and seeking, the health benefits, and just for the benefits of your family and for yourself, of setting a day aside, sanctifying that day, as God tells us to make it holy, it's incredible. What it is, the Sabbath starts sunset Friday night and is 24 hours until Saturday sunset. And for us, and there's not a lot of instructions in the Bible. You can go and read it for yourself, but it's essentially what God says. Don't do any work on that. Don't have your employees work. Keep your businesses closed. Don't have folks working around your place and such. But set it aside for a day of remembrance for me. Set it aside as a day of rest. And people sometimes that keep it, and I've grown up with it, they look at it as a great burden. I remember a guy telling me that he went to a college where they kept the Sabbath, and how he would look out the windows of the dorms, and the moment the clock struck Saturday night, the whole thing would empty out. There'd be people coming all over, people stuck inside thinking that they couldn't do anything. And I've never looked at it that way. It's up for each person to decide what it is. You decide that between you and your God. But to have a day that your family looks forward to, that your wife or your partner or your children or just yourself, that guilt-free, you don't have to do any work because you've resolved not to do it. It's astonishing, and it's an incredible thing, and it will absolutely change your life, something to look forward to. Because those of us who are men, we're just workhorses. We're just made that way. That's what we do, and we feel like we're not productive, or that we're doing something wrong if we're sitting on the couch and relaxing on the weekend sometimes, and this takes all that away. And the funny thing, a lot of us that, not me of course, but some folks, women seem to have a hard time when they see their man resting or relaxing on the couch. I've watched some really funny YouTube shorts and TikTok videos of guys that will come in like on Saturday morning, plop themselves down on the couch after a hard week's work, and start the stopwatch on their clock and hold it up and say, just wait and see. How long is it going to take my wife before she starts issuing me directives for things to do? And it's hilarious. It doesn't take very long. It's almost as if women despise the fact, or just can't stand to see their man idling and need to get him involved in some sort of activity around the house. I mean, it's the way we are. It's just human nature. But the Sabbath will give you a respite from that, because everyone decides. When your family decides to do that, you know that it's going to be, that's all of us. And you can have a peaceful day. You can have a clear conscience knowing, nope, yeah, I know I need to go mow the lawn. I need to fix this. I need to do that. That's for another day. That's for Sunday or whatever it is you choose to do. It's a great blessing. And Mrs. W, just for us, how we prepare, of course, there are some things that need to be done. We're not going to be dogmatic about it, but she will try to prepare foods ahead of time. So she'll kind of start working Friday afternoon. She'll make some soups or prepare some things, or pot of beans, or a roast cooking or something like that, where the minimal effort is involved for her. She's already done the legwork, so she doesn't have to be, working and while everyone else is relaxing. But it is a great blessing. I'll tell you what is not a great blessing, though, is the annual lighting of the lantern. Now, if you're just joining us, I have a hate-hate relationship with this lantern. It is somewhat temperamental because I'm too cheap to buy the proper fuel, and I insist on burning unleaded fuel. And coupled with my penchant for spilling fuel, it is my personal handicap. It can make for exciting programming. So, as is our custom here, we will... My friend Overton, we'll try a little, it's getting a little bit low there. We need a splash of fuel. My friend Overton sent me a compilation of the lighting of the lantern, which was quite funny. And I think he might be onto something. Perhaps we might need to put those together, and that would be a funny compilation. Oh man, I love Fridays. I look for everything, all the rest, and the lack of worry, and having a time that I can just sit in peace with my children. It's a great blessing. You know, I've told this story before. Many of you have heard it, but years ago, I think I don't remember who told me this story. Years ago, someone told me a story about the Grand Canyon. And there was, if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, and I think they still do it, you can take little tours down there riding on donkeys. Now, donkey is a small, straight-legged... Give me strength. That's the worst spill I've ever had here. We're going to get to enjoy the aromas of fuel for the next 2 hours. Looking forward to that. Oh, goodness, look. Now it's so full, I'm not even going to be able to... Back to the basics. I overfilled. You have to leave airspace in your lanterns, gentlemen. You don't go on talking about donkeys. I'm the donkey. Good grief. You need to have an airspace in there, or you can't get any air volume. Oh, goodness. Well, it's a good thing I enjoy the smell of... So these donkey tours would run, there was a great demand for them, and they would run 7 days a week. Well, they found that was pretty hard on the donkeys. They came up lame and didn't live very long. Their lifespans were shortened, and it was just running them to death. Well, the folks that were running these concessions decided to give them a day off, just like God had commanded us, you know. He set it aside. He made the Sabbath for the man. He realized that, yeah, just because you can work all the time doesn't mean that you should. You need to have some rest time. So they started giving these donkeys a day off. And it was miraculous how they recovered, how much better they were able to perform, how much happier they were, how they ate better. They were just healthier, happier creatures because God has designed us that way. Now, are there exceptions? 30 pumps, 10 more. We got a little Superfund site going here right on my chopping block. We must be careful. Hang on to your butts. Oh, it's taking a long time. Oh, goodness. Infernal thing. Why? Why do we deal with? Why do we put up with this? Well, now it's about the principle of it. It's got my goat. I will master it. We'll master it together. Okay, we'll let that thing steam and smoke for a while. Hopefully, it doesn't catch us on fire. And we'll jump into it. Good. We're hitting the ground running here. Looks like we're stacking up here. Let me jump in, and we'll just jump right into the show here. Thank you for hanging out with us. First off, life starts now. Yes, life starts now. You know, I really feel that way. I have a renewed enthusiasm, a vigor. I can feel something changing. I think a lot of you can feel the world changing. And all of that kind of came out of COVID. You know, I was thinking yesterday that, when Jesus was born, of course, the King Herod realized that he'd been hearing, that maybe a Messiah may be born, and this was a threat to his throne, and he was not going to have that. And so he put out an edict or a decree that all the male children, were to be hunted down and killed, hoping that he could snuff out this Messiah. Well, the angel of the Lord warned Mary and Joseph, and they fled down into Egypt. And he was raised down there. A lot of people don't realize that, as he was an infant. Well, he was down there for a while, but God had to get things going. He had to get Christ started in his ministry and everything. So he moved upon the rulers of Rome. They decided, we need to make a census. We need to have everyone return back to their own lands. Now, this is before internet, obviously, right? And the only way to practically count to see who you could tax, they would count people, they would do censuses because they needed to know who they could tax, who was there, and also who was eligible for military service. And the only way that they could effectively do this was to say, we're going to do a census. So a decree was put out that all inhabitants of Jerusalem and that area had to return back to their homelands to be counted. Well, that was something that had to be done. And I believe that God moved upon these rulers, and God uses rulers that are not godly, that they don't even know him to do his work. They do it inadvertently on many times. There's many examples of that. So the census was decreed, and of course, Mary and Joseph came back and settled in Nazareth, and we all know the story. Now, it seems to me that there's a parallel that this shaking out, this division of peoples, as God likes to say, separating the sheep from the goats, is being done, and COVID was a big thing like that. Those of us saw who we could trust, who was a weak-minded person, and who was not a weak-minded person, and that was a great awakening to us. And there are many things coming into place, and you being here is a direct result of that. We have a lot of work here to do today. So don't be in fear of all of the stuff going on and all the fear-mongering. God is in charge, and he's doing things for a reason, and we don't see it right now, but we're going to see it. All we have to, it's not for us to know. If we did know, it would probably frighten us to the point where we wouldn't even be able to get up out of bed and we'd be hiding under our covers. But he gives us the information that we need, just enough. So we go forward in faith, knowing that when it's time, he'll reveal it to us. Oh no. You see, this is a real problem here because it's been spewing fuel. You guys are supposed to remind me when that goes out. Let's let that off gas for a moment. Danger is my middle name, but I do have my limits. Life Starts Now. Shout out to you. Thank you. All right, so we have a super chat from Life Starts Now also, and he asked a question that he just found out my wife is pregnant with our first child. Congratulations, and shout out to you. Man, that is, I remember clearly when Mrs. W told me that she was pregnant. It was right after our honeymoon, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. In the kitchen in my apartment. I remember, I couldn't even believe it. Like, no, this isn't happening to me. This isn't happening. He says, I could really use some advice on being a good dad. I'd love it if you made a video on fatherhood, especially for new dads. Well, we can talk about that in the future. That's a huge topic. But for right now, you just found out it's starting to settle in, and the reality is starting to settle in. One piece of advice that I would give you is that your job is to be the priest of your household, the protector. Husband, I look at the word husband as house band, a band of love and protection and spirituality around your particular house. Be very deliberate with everything, and it's time for you to put away childish things. If you still are entertaining things that are wasting time, that are bad for you, bad influences, just imagine, would you want to see your newborn little baby girl or baby boy participating in this activity, and then judge accordingly? I'm not going to tell you what to do. Every man knows what's right. God's written his law on our heart. We know instinctively. But the advice I would give you right now is provide a sanctuary, whether you have a home or apartment, doesn't matter, of safety. And make sure that your wife feels comfortable. Her being stressed out or anxious or worried about things, that translates, in my opinion, into the baby. And women that have a lot of stress and worry about that, I wonder if that doesn't cause complications, and that does negatively affects the baby in some ways. So, as unfair as it may sound, in this world where everyone tells us that we're equal, we're not. Men have an incredible ability to bear burdens and to be stoic and to shoulder the load. So just take the extra work upon yourself. Make your wife reassure her daily. Make sure that she knows that she's protected, that she will be provided for, that you will move heaven and earth, whatever it takes, to take care of your new family, and give her as much peace and as you can in her pregnancy. And stay with us here and bring more questions. When we'll have more to add on that, but that's where I would start. And make sure that her nutrition is really good. And I would strongly encourage you, when she's pregnant, to really limit having cell phone radiation and stuff close by the baby. It's a hard thing to do. I know we've become dependent on these things, but if you could do that, do it. Do a little bit of research yourself, and if you come to the same conclusion that I do, just make sure you do that. And if she wants to listen to music or do things like that, just put it on airplane mode. If you can download things for her, if you can help her out with that. She might think you're crazy, but I would encourage you to do that. Just really take care of her, make sure that she's comfortable and at peace. And it's in my opinion that the pregnancy will help it to go along well. But congratulations, my goodness, that's an exciting time. We have a super chat from our friend Dr. Pepper, MD. Shout out to you, Dr. Pepper. He says, I see conflicting information online. Can you go over the real difference between a skip tooth chain and regular chains, and why and when to use it? Yeah, so with chainsaws, there's basically 3 different types of chains. There's a regular chain that will have a lot of teeth, a tooth on almost every link. Then there's a half skip, and then there's a full skip. And the controversy rages on. So your little consumer brands saws, like that you're going to get at your box stores and such, most of those are going to come with a skip chain, a half or a full skip chain, because there's less teeth. There's a third less teeth on those skip chains. And what that does is there's less resistance, and they can get higher chain speed with less power. It's just a little bit of a cheat for them. Now, when you get into and that's fine, you go with the skip chain on those things, that they're designed to run that way. Now, if we're going up to the big boy saws, like professional homeowner, like we like to have, we're getting into our 400 series, our 440s, 441s, the 50s, the 66s. There's so much power in those saws that you don't have to have a skip chain. You can run anything. But if you go to what the loggers say, I've asked them, and what the loggers say, well, I don't really know why, but it just seems to work better. And it does. It just seems to work better. And coming from someone who has spent a lot of time behind chainsaws, especially chainsaw milling, and I've worked through all of those chains and lots of different varieties, they do. They just work better. And when you get onto a big bar, like a 28-inch, even a 26, 28, 32, 36-inch bar, if you can put a skip chain on there, then you have 1/3 less teeth to sharpen. And that's not a small thing. That takes a long time to file those saws. So I don't know all the science. I can tell you this, the professionals use skip chains. And I live right here where the professionals live. My neighbors are all professional loggers. My old neighbor was a professional saw filer, and I've talked to him extensively over this. So I would just do half skip or full skip chains. Less to sharpen, higher speed chain, and they just seem to work better. Just like the old logger said, they just seem to work better. I don't know why. Sometimes things just do. The same way with the crosscut saws. I've read a lot of history about the old vintage crosscut saws, and now those are we can no longer produce those. Whenever I say that, people say, well, I'll go on in the site and I can see a whole bunch of those for sale. What are you talking about? Of course they still produce them. Not like they used to. Now, what they do is they use just bandsaw steel, and it's the same thickness from the back of it to the tooth. That's fine, no problem. It's good steel, no big deal, but it's all about the set of the teeth. Now, if you've ever pulled a saw through wood before, you'll realize that it will bind up sometimes. You'll get into the middle of it and it'll start dragging. start binding. Well, the reason why that is the set is wrong. The set needs to be the teeth like this. Every other tooth needs to be bent out like this, wider than the back of the saw. And the reason being is that as that cuts through the wood, that is cutting a groove or a kerf, they call it, wider than the thickness of the steel of the saw, the back of the saw. And if you put the set in the teeth, then it will cut through, even great big logs, and it won't drag and bind on you. Well, the genius of the old crosscut saws is they had special equipment and they were crescent ground. This is a fascinating thing. Those machines that crescent ground, then what they would do is they would take the steel that was going to be the crosscut saw and would be slid out on a table. And that table was a giant electromagnet. And they would hit the switch and that electromagnet would suck that thing down hard. It would not move at all. Really powerful magnet. Well, there were giant grinding stones that worked on these concentric cams that would come in and they would grind a crescent grind in these saws. And what that effectively did was they made the saw from the teeth. It's hard to explain without one here. Let's say this is a crosscut saw like this, and this is the teeth and this is the back. What that grind did was that the thickness of the metal here, let's say it was 11 thousandths, whatever, it would be 4, 5, 6 thousandths less on the back, meaning it looked like this. It was a taper. Well, what that gave you was the ability to have a little itty bitty tiny set, almost no set. And why that's important was the kerf that you're cutting now is just tiny, tiny, tiny. You're removing just a very small amount of wood. And when guys used to get paid by the tree. And so having a tool that cut efficiently and effectively was important, because if you could cut down 1 or 2 more trees because your saw was efficient or properly sharpened, that was money in your pocket. It was very, very important. Those old logging camps, the crosscut saws were so expensive, they didn't belong to the individual loggers. They belonged to the company. And the company would actually set up a saw filing shack right there on the landing or right where they were working, and there'd usually be 1 or 2 guys in there, a master saw filer and an apprentice, and his full-time job was to catalog and take care of these beautiful crosscut crescent ground saws. They're absolutely a national treasure. Once they're gone, they're gone. The Forest Service maintains a whole catalog of them, and they're very careful who they loan them or who takes them out for work, because they still use them fighting fire in wilderness as well as trail crews. So the saw filer would work in there, and he would issue these out to different fellers and cutters. And what the guys would say was, we don't know why, but some of those saws were just special. Something about them, even though they all came from the same Atkins or the Royal Chinook factory, some of them were just different. Some of them were just special. I don't know if it was a combination of the steel or what it was, but I'll tell you, just as a fun kind of a side note, the saw filer in those old logging camps was very well taken care of. It was not uncommon for guys that would come in that were working, felling crews, bucking and felling crews, would come in and give gifts, whiskey, maybe a pie, maybe some candy or treats or something, trying to get on the good graces of the saw filer, because he was the one that would issue the saw to you. And there were particular saws that were just special. The guys said it, and I don't know if it was their think so, but that they believed it, and so I believe it too. Quite interesting. We'll be getting into some saw filing once I get caught up with. It's on there. I saw files. I went to school for it with the Forest Service. I got in to do that, and I have all the old equipment that you can't buy anymore, and it's something that I have in storage that I need to get out. But we'll get into that. There's lots of time. I'm not dead yet, so we have a lot of content coming up in the future. But I hope that helps you with the skip chain. Just go ahead. I would do half skip and full skip for every saw. Just get in the habit of it. We have another super chat from Mr. Dr. Pepper and 2-year member. Shout out to you. Thank you for your faithfulness, Doctor. He says, and perhaps a follow-up question on chisel shape. Yeah, so what he's talking about, once you decide on your saw chain, then you have to make another decision. If you go to a professional logging store, they're going to ask you a couple questions. They're going to ask you, do you want round file or do you want chisel cut? Well, they're very different. And It depends. So the loggers, the guys that are working production, the pros, they're going to use a chisel cut chain, and those guys are even good enough where they even hand file chisel chains. What it is a chisel chain, and rather than having a round file like you're used to seeing, it's cut on, grinders will cut them, or square file. They're cut on a really sharp chisel angle, and they have a very keen point on them. When you get one that's filed properly and you just touch the tip of it, you know how sharp a cat's claws are, Mama? Sticky sharp. That's how sharp they are. And they cut like a demon. Man, there's nothing like just laying into a big Doug fir with a big 440 with a chisel chain on it. I mean, that is the epitome of masculinity right there. It gives you the fizz ×3. That's fine. However, they're very fragile. Once that tip is knocked off, then they're not efficient. Guys, it's very common for fallers. They'll have several already pre-sharpened. They don't fool around with them when they're working typically. They yank it off, and then they'll throw a new chain on, and most of them have grinders. You can buy grinders now, they do that, and they'll just pre-sharpen everything back home at the shop, or maybe they have a guy at the company that does it for them, and they're about production. You know, they're not out there hand filing anymore. So very, very, think of it as a Ferrari, super, super high performance. When it works great, and it's the best, right? Now, if you're in an environment where you're a professional homeowner, and you are not so good about cleaning the bark off, and maybe not so good about keeping your tip out of the dirt, and you have some problems with that, like many of us do, then the chisel cut is not necessarily the best fit for you. You're better off to go with a round file. Round file is, you can file it yourself, just the traditional one. It's not going to have the performance of a chisel cut, but it is going to have a lot more durability. Think of the utility edge. You know, it's a very simple principle, same principle as like a kitchen knife. A kitchen knife is sharpened very thin. It needs to be high performance to be able to cut vegetables and tomatoes and such. Whereas a bushcraft knife, a hunting knife, a butchering knife, EDC knife, you want a wider one. You want it to stay sharper longer. Yes, it's not going to be as good performance-wise, but that edge is going to last longer. That's the same principle with the round file. And that's what we use on wildland fireground. I don't advise using chisel grinds for that, because you're working in such a dirty environment. You got a lot of soot, you got a lot of dirt that's blown around in the bark, especially with the Doug fir trees. And those round file chains, although not as fast, will stay sharper, and you can use them longer, especially if you're doing stumping. If you're stumping down at the ground, or you're bucking with wood on the ground where you slip through and you get at the ground, that's the way. So round file's for durability, chisel file is for performance. That's kind of the rule of thumb on that. Good question, though. Good question. We have a super chat from Stubby. Good to see you back. Welcome, Stubby. And new member. Let's not forget that. Shout out to you. He says, for years you've talked about how you use the 940 pretty hard. Have you experienced any issues with the Omega spring weakening or breaking? I have not. No, I have not. And what he's talking about, the bench, this of course is the official Proho knife right here. Now, it's not to say you have to have one. You can't be Proho without one. You just have to have one. That's all that matters. You have the knife of your choice. But if you want the official one, this is it. This is the 940 right here. This is the very, very knife that you see on as the member's badge right there, the little green one. I have long determined that this is the best all-around EDC knife in the world, because it's long, it's light, it melts in the pocket, it's super, super tough, and it gives me the fizz. And it's a real good one-hand opener. The Omega Spring, I've never had a problem with one. Now, I have never got into it either. I was going to get in. You know, I like to get in and clean stuff, but I also know my limitations. I have had things that I've gotten into to do a good cleaning, and was not able to get them back together again. So I was about to take this apart and get into the spring that activates this lock. You know, this is the Axis lock, the famous Axis lock from Benchmade. These are made in Oregon. Well, I watched a couple videos on it, and one guy, I think the first one I watched, the guy scared me about how difficult it was to replace the Omega spring, and so I just leave it alone. I've never taken one apart, and I've never had an Omega spring break. I wouldn't worry about it, man. You know, the knife community, I think they have too much time on their hands. You know, they've done all the knife reviews they can do, or they've done all of their collection, and they have nothing else to do content on, so they have to start inventing things, and so they have to create drama. And where do they go? They go with the Omega spring. Every knife has problems. So what if it breaks? You can send it into Benchmade. They'll fix it free of charge, no problem. They'll probably even send you one if you wanted to fix it yourself. I've never had the need to go in. I'll just take some compressed air and some soapy water, whatever, man. I just give it a good vigorous, whatever, shaking, blow it out with some air, a little bit of gun oil on there, drip, drip, and man, it's good to go. You don't need to worry about it. So it's a tempest in a teapot. I've had a whole bunch of Benchmades. No one's used them harder than I have, and they've been fine. So it's good. They're good. The 940, it is the official knife right there. If you buy one, you will not be unhappy. Not be unhappy. It'll give you the fizz, I promise you. That's a good question, though. The Omega spring. Mike Mack, new member, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thanks for hanging out with us. I put up some member content. I'm going to be putting member content up for you guys, so sign up. And you got to see TradCon breakfast this morning. He says, professional homeowner merch. I would support the heck out of that. Good to hear. Good to be here once again. Yes, so we are working that. Overton, bless him, is a one-man wrecking crew. He is getting stuff done, and he has put together 12 men for my inner circle that are helping me with these things. Now, we have meetings being scheduled. Some of our middlemen have stepped up that have expertise in that business and said, we're ready to go. Everything's in place. All you got to do is just say the word. So we're going to go forward with that. I have lots of ideas. And also, if you have ideas or things you'd like to see, what I'd like to do with the merch, as I said yesterday, is we want to do stuff that you would know if you know, right? We want to do pro-ho. We want to have act accordingly. You know, the things that have come up on the channel that if you've subscribed, you know about. We want to do that sort of thing. So we're going to be making that available. And the reason why I'm doing that, I've been reluctant to do that in the past because we've always had more than what we've needed. And I just haven't felt the need to have, enough is enough, right? We don't need the revenue from the merch and all that. However, with that being said, we're going to do the merch so that this will speed up and help along getting this project done. The community center, the grounds, the facilities, all these things, that'll help out tremendously. So we're going to do that. You guys have been asking for it. So I'll have to decide so how it's probably going to work. And we haven't had the meeting yet, but as I'm writing down ideas when they come up, suggestions from you guys. If you have ideas of something you want to see or something that would be funny, that would make a good t-shirt or a die-cut sticker, we can do some cool stuff. Put that in the comments, and the middlemen will pick that up and bring that to my attention, and I'll add it with mine as well. But look for that on the horizon. We're going to be working on that right away. We actually have a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I've wanted to do that I thought were outside of my ability, but some good men are stepping up saying, we've got it in place. All you got to do is say go, and we are going to go. And so we're going to move on, man. We're going to do it. So stand by. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming for real this time because you're not going to have to depend on me to do it solely. But thank you for that. Spartan 219. Good to see you. Shout out to you, Spartan. He says, hey, brother, corned beef hash or biscuits and gravy? I say neither. I say neither. Now, I'm not Southern man. That is not a breakfast a Pacific Northwest man would eat up here. I can't imagine eating gravy for breakfast. and hash, I don't even know what that is. We don't do that over here. I don't know. Hash browns. So what we like up here is we like our farm fresh eggs over easy. We like our Idaho hash brown potatoes, home fries if you're a Philistine, but properly sliced hash browns. And we like a chicken fried steak. Now, I will make an exception for some gravy. Now, I'm not big on the gravy because the gravy's got sausage in it, and that's pork sausage. Now, I follow the Levitical law. We don't eat unclean meat. We don't eat shellfish and crustaceans and crab and eel. Shout out to the UK. And pork and that sort of thing. So that's kind of a no-go for me. But a good chicken fried steak is a bit dry without some good gravy on it. So I have made an exception. Again, I'm not going to be dogmatic about it. When I was in Baker City last weekend at the truck stop, I pulled in, and there's a place there that has a famously delicious chicken fried steak. And of course, it comes with the pork sausage gravy on it, right? Well, I just can't help myself. So what I do is I order the gravy on the side. They bring it in a bowl, and then I carefully kind of strain the sausage chunks. It's what I do. But that's what it is, chicken fried steak. Chicken fried steak and eggs with Idaho potato hash browns. That's the way we do it, and huckleberry jam. That's the way we do it. And when you come out here, you can rest assured that you will get to sample that. We'll be picking our own huckleberries. Oh, we have a new member, Wrecked. Wrecked them. I like that. That's a good name. Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for supporting us. Mike Mack, and new member, he's got a comment here. He says, I'm just starting out, have never read a good book, never read the good book. You want to capitalize the good book. Whenever you're referring to the Almighty or to the Christ, to Christ, you want to start by alphabetizing a capital letter in that, out of respect. I think that's important. He says, I just started out, have never read the good book, but I started this week. Any tips or passages you would recommend to focus on? You know, you want to start with the Gospels. I would start with the book of John. I would start with the book of John. And, you know, it's important. You know, one thing that's helpful for a new reader is discipline is where you get it. You know, I talked about yesterday, I said the secret to success is just keep going, not giving up, not quitting. And if you're like me, you can get into a passion or get worked up about something and then really, really hit it hard, and only for that desire to wane off, and then you never really see it through. And when you don't see something through, you never really are able to get ahead. I would advise you to get on a Bible reading plan. There's an application. If you like to do stuff more online and have things on your phone, there's a really great application. And if I could persuade one of the middlemen to throw this up, if you could go onto the App Store and get the link for the Daily Audio Bible. The Daily Audio Bible. It's the DAB, the DAB. So and I forget the guy's name, but he's a guy that was, I don't know that if he grew up in the church, but he's maybe an ex-record executive. He was in the music industry. So he has done a really nice job where they go through the Bible in 1 year. And they do, you could just jump on there onto the app, and you can listen to it on your way to work. You can do it whenever you want to. If you miss a day, you can go back and you can catch up. And it gets you through the whole book in a whole year. And he also has, I think he's got really great insights at the end, where he just a kind of a quick summary. He's not preaching to you. You know, he's not taking away your responsibility of prayerfully thinking and making up your own decision in your own mind. But I would encourage you to start with that. And even if you just use that app as the reading plan, if you wanted to do your own reading, and I get that too, I prefer to do it that way, or even do both, that's what I would do. And just get on that. And that's an accomplishment. And you'll really, you'll have a worldview completely different. You'll have a big picture of the stories, because he'll help you a little bit put things into context where they're at. It's a very good resource. The Daily Audio Bible, the DAB. He's even got, I haven't been there for years. I'm sure it's still up and going, but he's even got versions that are suitable for kids. I think his daughter, when she was of age, that she started kind of a side that's attached to the app for kids. It's a good resource. I think he's doing good work over there. It was a huge benefit to me when I was trying to learn and study. But that's what I would do. We have a super chat from Mr. Tim Caldwell, and 2-year member. Shout out to you and welcome. It says, brother, please take a super chat and buy a can of white gas. Burns are not fun. We'll be on the road next week and we'll miss the live stream. Thank you again for everything you do. Yeah, it's all right, Tim. The live streams are going up. If you go to the main channel page, you can go to Wranglerstar.com on my main YouTube channel. On the top is a tab, and it'll say live stream, I think it is. And those will all be archived on there, and you can go back and watch those if you want. Overton and some of the boys, bless them, are putting a lot of time in and going and time stamping those for me. And I'm getting up early and clipping those for you. So anything that those guys say, hey, this was pretty good, or this might be a good standalone video, I'm going off of what they say, and I've been doing that, and I'm working pretty hard. So I just got live stream 12 clipped and all up today, and I'll work on 13 tonight and tomorrow. So those will be available. That might be a little bit more digestive. You'll get the things that the boys thought were interesting, and we'll put that up there for you. So no problem. Stay connected and be safe out there. We have a super chat from Chase Cormick. Shout out to you, Chase. And new member, welcome. 940. See, Overton's 940, I think, had a black blade, if I had to say. But he's kind of a tactical guy. He needs that capability, where me, I don't need that. If I stand out, then it's not the end of the world. Chase says, buying my first pair of Knicks today. Oh man, you're excited, huh? What wool socks do you recommend? You are a very expensive influence, Cody, my goodness. Yes, but those boots you'll save money in the long run. Not only will you save money, but you'll get to enjoy something that you'll enjoy lacing up every morning, that you'll enjoy wearing. I don't know if you're going to wear them for work. Some guys just buy them for dress, and they keep them good. They can't imagine working in them, or they'll have 2 pair. That's kind of what I do. The best socks that I have found to date are darn tough. They are excellent socks. Mrs. W, she says, we go back and forth on this. She says that Smart Wool make the best socks. And I disagree. My Smart Wool socks don't last as long as my darn tough socks do. And if memory serves, I could be wrong, double check this, double check your math, but I think that there's a lifetime guarantee on those darn tough. If you get a hole in them or the elastic bugs out on you, they'll replace them. I've got many pair, and they are excellent socks. So go with darn tough socks with your Knicks boots, and always leather laces. I would have them, when you're going to order them, just have them, if they won't already, throw in an extra pair of boot laces for them, and get yourself some Obanoffs. Obanoffs, it's made in Idaho. It was designed for wildland firefighters for our boots. Our boots get super abused, because what happens with the leather, you have to remember with leather, it's organic, it's skin. And the reason why it's so soft and supple when the boots are new is because of the fats from the animal are impregnated in there. Whenever you get a boot outside and it's exposed to UV light, dirt and dust, all of that, especially water, all of that leaches that fat out. And then the boot becomes dry. And you've seen it before. You've had boots that right on the instep, where they bend, like when you're kneeling down, they start to crack around the ridges. Well, if you keep those boots, if you take care of them properly and you keep the Obanoffs on there, you won't have that. They won't do that, and they'll stay soft and supple. They'll even be more comfortable the more you put that on there. Put the Obanoffs on the inside. Put it on your hand. If you have a wood stove, or just come inside and you get after it, man. Get in there with your hand. Get on the inside. Get on the outside, and take care of them, and they'll last you a long time. The only reason why you'll have to have them rebuilt is when you wear all the lugs off, when the lugs are gone, and that's where the real magic comes in. You've invested $600-700 into a pair of custom boots. You're going to get years and years out of them. When you send them back into Knicks, they're going to rebuild them for about $200. $200, and when they come back, you would swear that they just gave you a brand new pair of boots. You won't even know that they are the same boots. They don't replace, the only thing that they leave are the uppers. I got my boots right here. What am I doing trying to, picture's worth 1,000 words. These are Knicks Hot Shots right here. Full-on fire boots, the best of the best right here. When they replace these boots, the only thing they save is this upper. And that it rarely gets any damage, because this is protected by your pants. So it's protected from the sun, it's protected from dirt. It just stays clean. Nothing really happens to it. So they'll cut all that off. They'll save the eyes and the top, and everything below is replaced. Brand spanking new, just like it was, and they do it for $200. So then that's when it really starts to pay. Your initial investment. When you'll be wearing these boots in 20 years, in 30 years. You'll still be wearing them if you take care of them with Obanoffs, and you have them rebuilt when the Vibrams wear out. Best investment you'll ever make. My granddad always said, you spend your money I don't care what your position in life. You spend your money, you do what you have to do on two things, your mattress and your boots. Because if you're not in one, you're going to be in the other. That's where you put it. Congratulations, man. You are stoked. You are stoked. Mr. Dean Pickett, and 1-year member. Shout out to you, Dean. It's great to see you. Thank you for your faithfulness, Dean. He says, cold shower and a daily lantern lighting. Good times. Thank you. Yes, I had my cold shower this morning. Man, I turn my face to that thing like a flint now. I used to dance around and have to psych myself up. I don't have any problems now. When my body starts whinging and whining about it because it's early and it's cold, I do mine early. I revile myself. I said, well, I don't care what you say. This is what we're doing today. It's happening, and it is happening. I got encouraged this morning. I had one of my subscribers sent me a personal email, and he told me that he just did, I think he said he was on day 7, 1 weekend. He did 10 minutes this morning. 10 minutes. That's a long time. I do 3 minutes. This morning, I'm so into the moment now, where I'm just impervious to the experience. Really, I'm focused on it. I'm resolved. I go in there. It's a little bit warm, tepid. It's tepid. It's running. And then I get in there. I start with the front. It's harder to get it on my back for some reason. The front's a lot easier. I get in there, and as soon as I hit it, boom, man, I go full to the right, and it's on. Game on, and I'm focusing, man. I close my eyes, and I'm doing my deep breathing, and I'm just feeling everything. I'm in the moment. Like, you may be sad or depressed or whatever, anxious or worried. I assure you, all of those things going on in your lizard brain will completely and immediately be vacated. I promise you. I promise you. For 3 minutes or 10 minutes, you won't have a care in the world. You will have your own personal problems dealing with that cold water, which will give you enough to think about, I assure you. And that's really nice. This morning, I'm to the point now where I'm in the zone. I'm breathing. It's important to breathe, and to relax, and just taking it and feeling it. Feeling the cold water on your skin, which at this point does not feel cold anymore. It shocks me. The last week or so of doing that, I've had to double take and look at the mixing valve to see, because I thought I didn't get it turned. It's still warm, or it's still tepid, but it hasn't been. It's full cold. And if I ever have any question or forget it, I just put my hands in it. Our water is so cold that my hands, I can't stand it for maybe 2 or 3 seconds before they immediately start aching. So I get in there and do my bird bath and all that. But I got to keep my hands out of it. My arms are fine, back, neck, all that. I get after it. I get in there, and but this morning, I was the Zen master on this. I was really focusing on the experience, and it's no joke, man. It's no joke. And I don't dry myself off anymore. The first couple times I came out of there like uncontrollable shivering. No, man, I'm placid, and I'm in the zone there. I just come out and I air dry. Or I just slowly dry my face off. I don't like to have water on my face. And then I just, so I do that and then go into the Wim Hof breathing method. I'm doing his 10-week program. It starts with that. And I used to get really cold. It's cold in the room. We keep our room cold, like 64 degrees. I like to sleep 64, 66 degrees. So it's cold in there. So I get out of the shower. I mean, that's not super cold, but it's kind of cold with the water evaporating off you. And immediately earlier, before, I had to dry off and get warm clothes on. And I couldn't get enough clothes on. Like, I would just be shivering and cold. And I'd even put a vest on when I was doing the Wim Hof breathing. Because you're bringing all that cold air into your body. You're super oxygenating, hyperventilating yourself, and that coldness would cool down my core, and I start shivering and get really cold again. And Mrs. W is experiencing the same thing, and she's in day 4. Now I don't experience that. I'm able to kind of control, just by concentrating on it, control my body, and I can make it not shiver. I wouldn't say that I can warm myself up, but I go right from the shower, really without drying off, brush my teeth, do the regular things, and then I go into my stretching and then my 10-week exercises. and without putting clothes on. I'll just put a pair of shorts on. And that's been an interesting change as well. And my sense of smell, it's incredible. It's truly incredible. My sense of smell and taste is enhanced probably sevenfold. Mrs. W and I went to our local kind of little restaurant, bar type of thing, country, I don't know what you'd really call it, a hall, local hall, where they have a stage, and we have a weekly open mic where local people come up there and play. We always try to go to that. It's super fun thing. But we were sitting at our table, and the table next to me had someone had a real strong detergent smell, which I asked Mrs. W. She didn't smell it, but people that wash their clothes in these toxic detergents, like these name brand things, I just can't stand it. I can't buy it. We only use, Mrs. W has to use everything with no scent. My sense of smell has become so keen with that. And I could smell that so strong. It really took away the enjoyment of it. I almost have to push my chair back because my sense of smell and taste is so enhanced. It's a really interesting side effect. Goodness, we have a super chat from Oh Just Get Over It. Yeah, man, I agreed. Oh Just Get Over It. And new member, thank you for your generosity. Shout out to you, who writes, LMAO, don't mean to pour salt in the gaping hole in the funnel, but I'll take a giggle from your toil. The content, as always. You can't even imagine, with my sevenfold enhanced sense of smell right now, I can't tell you the misery, the torture of the damned I'm going through breathing these toxic vapors coming off my chopping block, which is it's a big spill right here. Yeah. Wasn't I just making fun of the Forest Service putting down those little trays that catch spill when you gas up the Mark III pumps? Maybe I need to go to eBay and pick myself up one of those. Goodness, ridiculous. Thank you, and shout out to you. We have a super chat from Nick Wolfer and 2-month member. Shout out to you. Nick writes, can you talk about your e-mountain bike? What is it? How did you pick it? Do you like it? I want to get into it. I want to get into it as a pseudo dirt bike for restricted trails. I have an intense taser. Yeah, I'm not the e-bike expert. Back in the day, I was really into mountain bikes. It was a big sport of mine, and really, moto is that's my go-to. If I have the opportunity to moto or mountain bike, I'm going to moto 10 times beforehand. But the e-bike is really, really great for just what you're talking about, less impact. And if you are of the type of person who is a bit of a pirate, like some people I know, and likes to poach trails that may or may not be off limit, then it is very, very discouraged to be driving 2-stroke KTM dirt bikes on those trails. So here's our rule of thumb. I'm sorry. I'm saying this from a friend's experience. My friend will go down one level. So what am I saying? So if it says, if it's a hiking trail and it says no mountain bikes, he will take a mountain bike on it, but he won't go 2 levels. He won't go, if it's a hiking trail and it says no mountain bikes, he's not going to go and put a moto on it. So, you gotta you're going to have to make your own decisions on that. But if you are into that thing, as my friend sometimes is, e-bikes are really awesome. You don't have to be super fit. And the nice thing about that is, see, people think you're not going to get a workout. You're going to get a workout. I'm not talking about the boomer type, with the throttles on. I'm talking about a pedal assist, a regular high-performance mountain bike. What you'll find is you'll ride 3 times as far. You'll have a lot more fun because you can take the pain away. Because when I go out, I want to be spinning. When you're riding a mountain bike, like golfing, you same swing all the time and then you adjust the clubs. Mountain biking, or any type of cycling, you spin. So you develop a cadence that is comfortable for you, whatever RPM that is. It's different for every person. And then you're shifting through the gears to compensate. So as you go up and it becomes harder, you're shifting down and you're continuing to keep that cadence and you're continuing to pedal. The same thing's going to happen on your e-bike, but you're just going to go 3 times faster and 3 times as far. But the nice thing about the e-bike is that when you're really suffering, when you're on a bad climb or something that you wouldn't normally be able to climb just because of the effort, you can make the pain go away, or you can make it diminish by just adding a little bit of assistance to that. I'm a huge fan. I really enjoy them. It's a great way to get fit. If you live in a place that's got a lot of hills and you've tried to get on your bike and you're like, oh goodness, this is horrible. You know, I can't do this. I'm just too old and out of shape for this. The e-bike bridges that gap. Not only that, if you're older and maybe not super fit, it gives you the opportunity to get involved in a sport with your kids. Let's say your kids are involved in it, or put them on a normal bike, you get on the e-bike, and you can all go out and enjoy things together. So I would strongly encourage it. Just get something a name brand drive system. I would stick with Shimano or Bosch, those two. The one I have is really nice. The Intense Taser is nice. I got the, they made a moto version, which is kind of cool. So it's a full-on, full suspension mountain bike. And they made two models. They made one that sold at mountain bike stores, which was a little bit geared towards the mountain bike crowd. And then they made a model that was geared towards the moto guys. And there's a little bit different. Big, heavy double crown forks, for big drops and really fast, aggressive riding, as well as the brake shifted on the other hand, like a motorcycle is, like we like to have it. So you're used to that, because those are different. So you can look into that. But the Intense Taser is a great bike. There's so many good ones out there. I'm not going to be brand specific. When I did my research, I bought mine 2 years ago. That was the one I decided on. I'm a moto guy. I liked the Magura brakes. I liked the Renthal bars. It had those brands that I'm used to, the brands that I've worked with for years, and it was a perfect fit for me. So that's what I did. But you'll love it, man. It's a great sport. We have a super chat from Levente. Shout out to you. It says, do you have any pro-ho tips for faster recovery from cold, flu, Rona, or illnesses? Faster tips. Well, I think a lot of us are in a constant state of dehydration. It takes an effort to drink a lot of water. I've been for the members today. I started a reading list of important books that we need to read. And I'm going to have those reading assignments. And I'm going to kind of put little tips on there, different things that have worked for me. And one thing that we should all be doing, that this is your assignment, this is a requirement for pro-ho, is you need to drink 2 liters of water today. Or if you're an American, 2 quarts of water a day. That takes an effort. You wouldn't think so, but not just drinking it. I'm not talking about getting it in Andrew Tate style where you're just pounding 2 liters in the morning. If you do that, you don't get the benefits of it, because if you drink a whole liter, like I just need to get this over with, you'll know that in 30, 40 minutes, you have to pee, and then you lose a lot of that. Your philosophy on water, and this is the philosophy that I use, is you should eat your water and drink your food. Now, what does that mean? Well, we don't chew enough. We have a lot of soft food, and everyone's in a hurry. And how many times have you grabbed a hamburger and it's like 3, 4 bites, and it's down, right? It's hard for your body to digest that. You need to chew your food. You need to chew your food to the point where it's a liquid, and then you swallow it. That's why you have them. That's why you masticate. That's why you have your teeth. And that is a benefit right there. It puts less strain on your digestive system, and it's a lot easier. Now, when it comes to your water, what I'm saying, how you eat your water, is get yourself a water bottle or 2. Maybe you get 2, and stainless is best. Have those at hand, and just like, this is my allotment of water today, and just drink it slowly through the day. Just sip on it, little amounts. And what you'll find, and it's really helpful, if you work in a place where you have to stop working to go out and use the restroom, pounding 2 liters of water and then having to deal with that is a problem. So you don't want to do that, or you're in a toll booth or whatever. A lot of people have jobs where it's inconvenient. Whereas if you meter that water and you just spread it out through the whole day, then you don't have those massive bathroom breaks. And the same goes for at night. A lot of guys that get older have to wake up 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and to use the restroom. A lot of us I need to get caught up on my water. I know Cody told me to drink 2 liters and I only drank 1, so I'm going to pound them right now, right before I go to bed. Well, you're going to deal with that later. And do you really get the benefit of it? So the long-term strategy is to the 2 liters, set it aside in 2 containers, you know what's in front of you, and then meter it out through the day. That's beneficial. Now, I'm being told by a lot of people in regards to how to prevent getting sick, cold, and flu and such, is the cold shower. Is people are saying that once they start doing that, that they don't get sick anymore. They don't deal with colds or flus, and I think that that's probably the case. So it's too early to tell. I'm only 2 weeks into it, but I've always gotten the flu, the man flu, a couple times a year, and we'll see. I've never felt better this last couple weeks, and it could just be mindset. Maybe just the placebo effect of, I take cold showers so I don't get sick. That right there, as we know, placebo works 50% of the time. The body has the ability to heal itself. That may be part of it as well. So drink water, eat your water, drink your food, 2 liters a day, and start with that. I'm not a dietitian, but it's what works for me and for us. Thank you for that. Take those cold showers, man. It's no joke. Man up and do it. Everyone else here is doing it. You don't want to be left behind. We have a super chat from Young Gun 995. Shout out to you, Young Gun. Young Gun says, do you have any, he said, can you take the 940 apart and clean it? You can take the 940 apart and clean it. He says, it's a bit tedious, but I've watched you do harder things. LOL, I've had mine apart a couple times. Should I take it on? It needs a good cleaning. Those phosphor bronze bushings in there, I probably have all sorts of citrus orange stuff on there. That might be a perfect opportunity for a members only video. Put 7s in the chat if you want to see me attempt to take apart the 940 and reassemble the Omega spring. Just the name of it is ominous, isn't it? I'll do it. But I need to hear from you guys here. Yeah, it's filthy. There's even some sort of looks like there's maybe even a little critter in there of some sort. That titanium backspacer, it's just in deplorable condition the more I look at it. That's unacceptable. That's even unsanitary. All right, we'll make that happen. Thank you for the encouragement. I was afraid to do it. What's it going to take here? Torques, 2 different torque screws. That's it. I'm concerned about blade alignment. Nothing fancy. You got me scared about that too. Didn't you tell me that once you have the blade isn't aligned anyway, so I guess I can't do any harm. All right, we'll do it. We'll do it. That'll be a members only video. So go join. If you're not a member, join for that additional content. Come and join the family. We're looking for men that are willing to be soldiers, and women, men and women that are willing to be soldiers for Christ, that are willing to put on the armor of God and to stand shoulder to shoulder in the gap with me, because the fight is coming. It's a spiritual fight. We don't condone any violence here. We have a super chat from Zephan Chapel Elliott. Shout out to you, and that is quite a grand name. Goodness. He says, can I wear cowboy boots without being called a wannabe cowboy? I am from the city, but I really like the Roper style boots. Absolutely. You know what? Proho is a trendsetter. He's not a trend follower. That's very important. Now, one of the cardinal sins of the fashion industry, and Jeremy Clarkson will back this up, but he's also, Jeremy Clarkson is pro-ho as well, because he's a trendsetter and not a trend follower. Double denim. If I can wear double denim daily and get away with it, you can certainly wear Ropers in California. I wear Ropers, I don't wear Ropers, I wear Nokonas. Nokona is my brand I've worn Nokona cowboy boots since I was 18. That's the brand my dad wore. And I wear cowboy boots probably once a week, maybe twice a month, usually when we go out. And I'm not a cowboy, and I don't give a damn what anyone thinks. Cowboy boots are cool, they're classic. There's nothing that looks better with jeans. And anyone that just mock them, anyone that says anything to you, what type of a homo comes up to a man and makes a comment about his footwear? I mean, come on now. You do it. I do double denim, you do Ropers in LA. We have a new member, 2 new members, Oliver and Luke Blundell. Shout out to the two of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. You are going to get to experience the Omega Spring. This is what you want to ask for Christmas and for your birthday, gentlemen, one of these. It still gives me the fizz after all these years. Best knife in the world, this. And it's made in Oregon. We have a super chat from William Cordell, and new member. Welcome, William. We'll see you over at the Omega Spring debacle. He says, would that be Baker City Truck Corral? That would be Baker City Truck Corral. I was there. Was it last weekend? Is that what it was? When was I in Halfway? It was either last weekend or the weekend before. Oh man, that was the best meal of my life. I woke up, so I was staying in a little place in Halfway, Oregon, and went out and met with the boys, my snowbiking boys, and we had an epic ride out there in Hell's Canyon. Incredible. And so it's about a 6-7 hour drive home from me from there. And I wanted to get home early. And so I got up early. I couldn't sleep. It's hard to sleep in a new bed. I got up like at 4:30 or so. Did my cold shower. That was my first cold shower at a strange location. And that went well. Did my cold shower. And man, I was ready to go. And so I had like a hour and a half drive or so from the time. I'd been up for many hours with no food. I was ravenous, man. I was so hungry. I was driving through the dark in the trailer thinking, man, am I ever going to get there? When I pulled into the corral, yep, the Baker City Truck Corral, and that they put that big chicken fried steak down, man, oh man, I was grubbing on that. I can't tell you the level of grubbing I was experiencing. That was delicious. Yeah, that's good food there. They're really nice people, clean, good restaurant. I'd recommend if you go through Baker City, if you're driving truck, go to the corral and get that chicken fried steak. They'll only bring you 2 eggs. Proho likes 3 eggs with his chicken fried steak. So I always order an extra egg. Sunny side up or over easy. White toast dry. Don't let them put that margarine on your toast, gentlemen. First off, the first thing I do is I ask, do you have real butter? You shouldn't be eating anything other than real butter. Don't be eating any of those fake butter things. Just eat your toast dry before you do that. That stuff is beyond poisonous. So Proho doesn't want that on. So dry toast, and then you can put some jam on there. You got to put some blackberry jam on there. An extra egg, over easy. Hash browns, the giant chicken fried steak, gravy on the side, and you'll be grubbing. You won't leave hungry, I assure you. Baker City Truck Corral. That's where it's at. Man, I'm just hungry thinking about it. We have a super chat from our friend and new member, Andrew Rouse. Rouse like house. Shout out to you, Andrew. Andrew says, Cody, thank you so much for making a positive impact on myself and my business. That is as sincere as I can convey on a message. Yeah. You know, the thing, if you own a business, whatever it is you find your hand to do, this is the policy that I'm adopting for 2023, that I've tried to policy. You've heard this, you grew up with it, and we all know it, but really go back and revisit that. Make that your creed in everything that you do when you're running your business. When you're running a business, especially when you're just getting started, there's a lot, it's difficult. It's very difficult. If you're a one-man band, you find yourself, not only do you have to go, like when I started my excavating business, I was all by myself. And I had to get up early and move my equipment around. That meant driving a semi-tractor trailer. I had a 68 Diamond Rio with a 300 Cummins in it, and a 4 and a 4, and worn out kingpins, so going down the road, and no power, no front brakes. Worn out, and vacuum actuated windshield wipers. I was absolutely a menace on the road. Plus, I didn't have a CDL or insurance for the first year. You do what you have to do, right? So I was a menace on the road. I remember going down the road, just trying to keep that thing between the lanes. You know, you'd be steering it like this, that because the kingpins were worn out. You know, the tires were going like this. The tires were bald. Oh goodness, the danger. I would have been in prison for a lifetime had I been in an accident. But that's what I had to do. I didn't have any choice. I didn't have a CDL, didn't have the time or money to get it. I did what I had to do, and I had to do it. So that's what I did. One of the worst things of that old truck, though, were those vacuum-actuated windshield wipers. Now, I grew up in Portland, and Portland is famous for what? Rain, right? It rains all the time. It rains all winter long, heavy rain, always raining. And those silly early cars, so if you don't know, so an engine creates vacuum. A four-stroke engine, the car that you're driving, the piston goes up in 4 cycles. You know, the spark plug fires, pushes the piston down. And in these cycles, as the pistons are coming down, they create vacuum in the intake. And early car manufacturers realized, well, this is a power source that we can use for things. It's already being used. We might as well take advantage of it. They used it for advancing distributors back in the day before electronic ignitions and all these things. And one of the things that there were even cars, I think there was a Cadillac I saw at one time, that used vacuum. They stole a little vacuum off the intake, and there was a little glass bowl in the engine compartment, and the ashtray actually sucked the smoke out using the vacuum from the engine, and you could even put your cigarette butt in through the little hole, and it would suck it up into that little glass chamber inside of the engine compartment. How cool is that? And so no smoke in the car. You know, I thought that was pretty cool. But this truck, some of the early cars used this vacuum to actuate the windshield wiper motors rather than having an electric motor on there. It was just cheaper and more reliable, I guess. Well, the downside with that is you're not always producing vacuum, like when the engine's idling and such, or one way or another. There was sometimes, and I'd be going down the road, you know, driving 40-foot trailer on there through Portland, because I was doing all my jobs up in the West Hills with a 30,000-pound excavator on the back, bald tires, no front brakes, worn out kingpins, no insurance, no CDLs, scared to death, a 4 and a 4. You know how to drive one of those? You know how you drive those things? They're 2 gearboxes, 2 shifters, 300 Cummins, underpowered, like exceedingly underpowered. So here's what you had to do. And I had to teach myself this. No one even taught me. I bought the thing and I got in it and had to figure this out on my own. You'd grab the first gearbox and you'd put it into first, clunk. Then you'd grab the second gearbox and you'd put it into first, clunk. Whoa, you start going, right? Here we're going. And it's short, man. I mean, it's short. You need to shift immediately. It's like, whoa, it's up. Then you have to let off. The clutch didn't work. I don't know what was wrong with the pedal. There was a clutch pedal there, but it was just on the floor. It never worked. Then you'd have to time the RPMs perfectly, grab the, I forget, you have to pull first out in the second box, grab the second gear, jam it into second, and then, no, this is what it was. I remember now, I got it here. Two gear shifters. Put the first one into first, right? First gear. Put the second one into first gear. Whoop, up, grab the second one, second, whoop, third, fourth. Go through all 4 gears with the first box in first. Then you'd have to kick this one out of fourth into neutral, really quickly grab the second one, clunk, that one went into second gear on the main box, back to first, whoop, 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 through fourth. So this is a process, I'm telling you. And then you'd kick that out of fourth, and then you'd grab the first shift, and then you'd go into third, and then you'd go through the sequence, then you'd go into fourth, and then you'd go through the sequence, right? It was difficult to learn, and with no one teaching me. And many, many times, because the 300 Cummins was so underpowered for the weight that I had to pull, I didn't realize how steep interstates are. And you don't realize how steep interstates are when you're in a car because you just have all this power until you're in a truck like that. And there were many times that I would miss a gear. And if I missed that gear in a sequence or something like that, then I was done. I didn't have the power to recover it, and I'd have to pull over to the side of the road or just sit in traffic. I got to the point where I just sit in the traffic and start the whole sequence over again. So here I am on I-5, rush hour, sitting in the road with this horrible truck, the Diamond Rio, and then have to go through the sequence again. I mean, it was terrible. So there was that. And then to make matters worse, I had to deal with the vacuum windshield wipers. So for some reason, they would just stop or one would go. And one, they were terrible. And then they would flap, and then they would stop, and they didn't work very good, and they were phony. And I think I even had like a piece of wire well, like one would get hung up, and while I was driving, I'd roll out, like roll down the window and reach out there and hook it, get it going again. It was terrible. And I just thought that that's just the way things were done back then. Years later, I've never been a truck driver. That was, I did my own truck driving for what it was. But years later, I did get in to operate or drive a modern dump truck that had a proper transmission in it, and it's a lot better. So, you old truck drivers will understand. It was difficult. It was a good day the day I saw that old Diamond Rio going down the road. It was a good day. We have a super chat from Tony R. Shout out to you. He says, how do you feel about Oregon secession? I think it would be great. I don't know that it'll happen. I don't think the feds would allow it to happen. They'd come in and make an example of whoever it was that was instigating it. But maybe. I don't know. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Tear it all down. Let's get their fingers out of the whole thing, and let's roll up our sleeves, and let's be personally responsible for our own communities. I'd like to see more of that. We have a super chat from VH Josh. Shout out to you. Thank you for your generosity, and thank you for hanging out here with us. And new member, JSA 9791, who says, please start the fans. You guys are just now telling me? I had to start the wood stove this morning because my manservant, Jariah, he has the day off today, and it wasn't quite hot enough to get them going, and I thought, I won't have to worry about it because the moment I start the live stream, one of the members is going to tell me to start the fans. Well, they're chooching now, though. Thank you for that. This is an interactive program. We have a super chat from William Cordell, and new member. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Shout out to you. William is a Florida man. Did you see what your governor did yesterday? Our fearless leader, Mr. DeSantis, proposed legislation or a decree or whatever that they do, that no one can discriminate in the state of Florida. Businesses, governments can discriminate against anyone that doesn't want to take the jab or wear a mask. Chad move. Man, I'm all about that. Good for him. Florida man has always been the redheaded stepchild of all of the American men for as long as I can remember. Like, for example, there was a website, a blog, I think it was, where it would just constantly run people that had been arrested, and kind of a little blurb of what they did. And there was regions. There was the West, and then the Midwest, and then the East. They would cover massive areas. Like the West would cover all of the states, down to Arizona and all of that. And it took that many states to produce the content to have a constant update of people like to follow that. It's just interesting, such and such arrested for this, whatever. Some people follow that. Well, Florida had its own category just in its own state. And it was, that's kind of a Florida man. Florida man found with alligator in his pants. Florida man caught cooking meth. Florida man, what have you. Florida man is ungovernable, and as I said, might be the salvation of the country. I mean, that's where the rebellion might start. Florida man is a true revolutionary. I'm actually drawing inspiration from Florida man. Now, I lived amongst Florida man for a while. I never was Florida man, but yeah, I have to say hats off to you. Shout out to Florida man. He says, I'm a Florida man, but a truck driver. So I've been there a couple times, and yes, it's excellent. Yeah. Shout out to Florida man. I got a funny comment this morning from Southern man, and I'd made fun of we used to make fun of Southern man when I lived in Colorado, because Southern man had never seen a mountain before, and Southern man would get put in a long haul truck, and they told him, you take that truck and go up over the Rockies there and through that Eisenhower Tunnel. And correction, it's not I-80, it's I-70. I should have known that. It said I-80. It was I-70 is what runs through the Eisenhower Tunnel. That's the one we ran on. And what happens with him is he's good. He can come up from the front range, or the back range, front range, whatever it is there, no problem. He seems to be able to get up the hill just fine. But the moment he gets through that tunnel or over the pass and starts down the other side into Summit County, well, that's where the trouble starts. This is what he'll do. He does it the same thing every time. He starts picking up a little speed and starts getting a little nervous, and that truck and trailer, you know, he's 80,000 pounds on there, starts pushing a little bit, and he gets a little bit more brake, and that's not quite doing. He's still picking up speed, and he gives a little bit more brake and a little bit more brake, and then pretty soon he's standing on the thing, and he looks in his mirror, and what he sees, to his horror, is a massive plume of smokes because his brakes are on fire, and it's caught his tires on fire on his trailer as well. And now his brakes are completely out, and down he comes with his hair on fire and his tires on fire, concerned. So out west here, Southern Man doesn't know about this either, we have made provisions for Southern Man in that we build runaway truck ramps. Now, a runaway truck ramp, you've seen them on the side of the freeway, are spaced every mile or so on steep grades, is a long, deep, it's a long, straight run out that goes up, way up a hill, way up far, and it's filled with very loose gravel, sometimes pea gravel, deep gravel. And this is a precaution for Southern Man when he comes down without brakes on his truck. He can veer over there and hit the truck ramp and then go up, and that will slow him down and save his life. And then what happens is, as he goes up to the top, and the reason why I know this is because I ran I was responsible for going up there and rescuing him, because what happens to him is he gets up there, and the truck goes to the top, and it's steep, it goes way up there, and then it starts to slide backwards. He has no brakes, and he's in the gravel, and it comes backwards, and then the trailer jackknifes, and that stops his truck, and then it flips over on its side, and there he sits in an L shape. That's what he does. So shout out to Southern Man. We have a new member, Zephan Chappell Elliott. The point I was going to make was Southern Man asked me in an email this morning what was a mountain, because he had never seen that before. And I was trying to explain, how do you explain to Southern Man what a mountain is? And the best explanation I could come up with, I said, imagine a giant pile of monster trucks that's made out of rock. And that seemed to help him to understand, to get the picture. We have a super chat from Mommy of 3. Shout out to you, Mommy of 3. Is this the first female super chat we've ever had? It could be. Shout out to you, Mommy of 3. She writes, member for 26 months. 2 questions. Do you still have the new puppy? What are your thoughts on German Shepherds? Okay, so we do not. So, Honey, I should have consulted with Mrs. W on dog breeds before I bought one without consulting her. So she was away. I think she was visiting her parents in Nebraska. And I decided, we had talked, you know, the baby was at the age where she was thinking, you know, I'd like to have a puppy. And so it was on my mind, and I thought, you know, Mrs. W had been gone for a while, and I just got this wild hair, and I thought, you know, what would be better than to have a nice surprise for the Sweet Loaf than a new puppy when she got home? So I got to searching around locally, and I found a woman, and I decided on getting, I bought Honey. Honey was a golden doodle. Now, everyone loves golden doodles. I mean, all these dog people, and you know, when you're looking at breeds and dogs, you know, you go on there. I knew better. I should have just went and got an old mutt like Lucy. Those are always the best dogs. But I thought, oh, I got to have this fancy. I don't know what I was thinking. I was not prepared for the energy level of this animal. Well, to make a long story short, we spent a year with Honey, and she got big, and she was exceedingly energetic, and was to the point where she took so much time just dealing with her and keeping her just keeping her entertained. I mean, it was incredible. It was like having a Jack Russell Terrier, but in a big dog that sheds a lot. So we just got to the point like, this is just too much, to have the baby in the house and this dog and all of that. So our neighbors, we started saying, we might have to rehome her. Like, this is just too much for us. We do not want a dog this energetic. And also, poor Lucy was getting old. She's getting kind of old, and it was difficult having Lucy. She's getting a little stoved up because Mrs. W about ran the legs off of her. And having the athletic young dog that was super hyper was pretty hard on Miss Pants. We mentioned something about, like, man, we might have to rehome this dog. Our neighbors, really nice couple that become friends of ours, that moved in next door, they said, well, we would love to have Honey. And so there she is. So she lives next door. She's over there. She comes over once in a while. We saw her over there. We saw her like a couple weeks ago looking through the through the window of the house. But she lives next door. She's got a good friend, well taken care of, and with a young couple with more energy. So that's what happened to Honey. So if I'm going to be buying a dog in the future, it's going to be something that's more sedentary and most likely of a mutt variety rather than, I just don't need high energy dogs. I don't have time for that. That was a mistake on my part. We have a new member, Tony R. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations, you get to enjoy your new 940 members badge. Excellent. I don't even have one of those. I'm so bummed about it too. When we first started the members badges, and there's folks that are here with us, if you see the members that have the dual lanterns that are just like the infernal machine I have behind me there, those are the original, the OG members. And I didn't realize it, but you could buy a membership to yourself because I wanted to have it. I wanted to have the Loctite, all that. Well, I changed a credit card and missed the payment on or something happened like that, and I lost it, and now I don't have it anymore. And I'm so disappointed. And I guess I could go back and start it again. I'd have to start over again. Maybe I should just do it. We have a German Shepherd. So we had a German Shepherd as well. So it was a rescue dog. So we had at the old homestead. Sorry, I need to answer both your questions, Mommy of Three. We had Lucy. We got her as a puppy, and we wanted to have thought we'd have another dog when Jack was just little, and we were looking for it wasn't a rescue dog. We just looked in the local advertisement for someone that was looking to get rid of a good dog, and a German Shepherd came up. And so in Portland. So we drove down there, and the folks that said, they were moving and they couldn't have her anymore. She was a couple years old or so, and she was really good-natured and nice dog. And so we took her home, brought her home. She was not a nice dog. I don't know if she was abused or what happened to her, but she was really super aggressive, and we were really uncomfortable. We were afraid that she may do something to Jack when he was little, and we just couldn't take that risk. And she was really hard on the poor puppy. I guess maybe we had this German Shepherd first, and then we got Lucy, Miss Pants. Well, poor Miss Pants, if you see her now, like I rub her ears every day. Her ears are all cauliflowered like a MMA fighter and ruined and all lumpy, and they just look terrible. From that German Shepherd mauling on her all the time. That poor little dog, that German Shepherd would run after her, and she'd just roll up in a ball, and then she'd chew on her ears and messed her ears all up. And so that did not turn out to be a good dog, and we had to rehome her as well. So maybe I'm not the best dog buyer. But Lucy, Miss Pants, is the sweetest dog, probably the sweetest dog there ever was. We picked that one right. That's because she was just a normal dog, just a Heinz 57, just a mutt. That's always the best type. We have another super chat from Mr. Jason Barr, and 2-year member. Shout out to you, Jason. Thank you for your faithfulness and your generosity. It says, would love to hear you expand on being an instinctive man and developing a correct God-given instinct. Yeah, I've been speaking to that a little bit, and Jason, this is a revelation that God has brought to me just recently that I'm still working out myself. It's true though. I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. There's some new people here. I grew up with we had a pool table growing up. My dad in the basement had always had one, and they used to have friends over and play. So I grew up with that and played with my friends. And one thing that I learned when I was older and we used to go and play in bars. We used to play for money, gambled $100 a game, stuff like that. At a pool hall, what I learned was your first instinct with pool was always correct. If you had to make a cut or chop or a shot or whatever, you walk up to it, you sight down it, you go down and you line up and you shoot. And you can run the table. You just hit the shot every time. But you get your mind into it. And when you're just playing with your friends and there's no money on the table, you've got no skin in the game, man, I could just run the table. 9-ball, 8-ball, didn't make any difference. It's a big diesel out there. Now, when I started playing for money, and there were times that I think there may have been times that we played for money that we didn't have, so you had to win. Well, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure in that sort of environment, and I noticed that I would not play as well. And the reason why I wouldn't play as well is because I didn't trust the instinct. I would go down for the shot, line it up, and normally when I would shoot and be able to run right through the table, now I'm making just a little bit of correction. I'm engaging my logical mind. I'm like, no, my instinct is wrong. I have to engage my intellect, and I would miss every single time, every miss. So that was, I didn't really think about it at the time, but I did learn then, like, you need to trust your instinct with those things. They know. There's something just inherently inside that you know. And then when I started doing a lot of archery hunting and shooting, my friends would shoot with pins. If you hunt with archery, there's two methods. There's instinctive shooting, bare bow, instinctive, and then shooting with pins or sights. So sights are set at particular ranges. So on the riser, there'd be a series of pins that as you pull back, whether you use a release or fingers, tabs, whatever, there's a little peep sight that you look through that splits the string. And the pins will be set at 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70 yards, whatever it is that you set them at. And as you look through this tiny peephole, you rotate the riser up and with the corresponding pin. So if you know that you have a target that's at 60 yards, we used to shoot competitive archery 3D targets. And you know the ranges, or you can estimate them after a while. You're like, oh, that's probably 40 yards. You have a 40-yard pin, and then you pull that up and you line that up, and then you release, and you'll be on target. And I never shot with pins. I always shot instinctive. And the same thing went with that. Exact same thing I found with playing pool, is that pull back, compound bow, it releases, and I'd line it up, watch the arrow pull back, release. It was a very good shot, very effective with that. Killed a lot of animals that way. But during competitions, when the pressure was up, I would second guess myself. Pull back, even though I'd shot thousands and thousands of times. I did shot every single day. I had targets at the house and all that. Pull back, second guess, miss. So that instinct right there is really important. The idea, I don't know that I have a lot to, Jason, I didn't know I have a lot to offer you here other than I'm working through this and this is a new truth. But that cartoon that we grew up with the good on this little good, the demon on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder, having a dialogue and who it is that you answer to, who are you going to respond to? That's what I'm convinced of how God speaks to us, that we need to react, that feeling that comes up. Mrs. W, this is a perfect example. I've been talking to her about this, and she had an incredible experience just the other day about the importance of being connected to God, listening to this. And when the urge comes, whatever you want to call it, I'm calling it emotion. Some people in the comments were correcting me, using the wrong term, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. It's the gut. The gut feeling, right? You know it. You know right from wrong right here. You know it. It comes to you. You should do this. I should do this. I should say this. I should go talk to this person. I should, whatever that may be. that reacting on that is, in my experience, is always the right decision. And the more you delay that, the more you like pop, emotion turns to feeling, the emotion, whatever it is, turns into thought. The moment that comes in there, the longer you don't react upon that, whatever it may be, that's when you start letting in the voice of the one that's opposed, the adversary, that would have you do just the opposite. You see someone that is in need. You feel it. It pulls on your heartstrings, whatever it is. I should offer help. Maybe I can give them a meal. Maybe I can give them $10, whatever it is, right? Immediately, you feel it, turns to thought, I should do this, you react on it. That's what I do. Whereas that can come into you, okay, I should do this, and then wait just one more second. Don't react on it. Don't resolve in your mind that this is the will of God, this is the urging of the Holy Spirit. Then here is the voice from the adversary. You know, money's tight right now. You know, but you went to the grocery store the other day and you walked out with one bag and it was $100. You know, you need to look after your own first, right? You need to. Isn't your obligation with your family first? And you don't even know this person. Why would you even consider that? And then the warring that takes place in the mind is those are the decisions that we make that determine whether or not we will be in the kingdom. Those are the things that are written down in the book of life that we will be judged upon. When we talk about faith, sometimes it takes faith to give out of your need. When you feel that, when God moves upon you to do something, and you realize, man, I don't really know if I have enough money to this, it might even be irresponsible to do this, that's what he's testing you. That's when you have to do it. And he knows what we have need of. And that is a tremendous act of faith. So we think about faith as like, oh, I have to have faith to keep these commandments, this and that. No, it's a daily thing. It's a constant struggle. You need to be constantly and always vigilant with these things. And the more you train yourself, what I'm experiencing to react to this gut, this feeling, reacting to that, the easier it is to do it. Where you can ultimately get to the point where you can almost silence the adversary. That's when you stop using the lizard part of your brain, the analytical part of your brain that's just simply about survival. It's not connected to God whatsoever. And that's how most people are operating. Instead of having a 95% responding to the emotion that turns to thought, that needs to turn to action, they think things out. We think things out. We're logical. We're always thinking all the time, and thinking about things, and it just makes us miserable, and thinking about things and worrying about things we can't change. That's what I'm talking about. Mrs. W, so I've been bringing this up to her. We've been talking about this as well. So this was 3 days ago. She's driving home with the baby. It's about 40 minutes from town. She's driving up. She's about halfway here. She's in her car, just talking. Everything's normal. The Holy Ghost speaks to her and says, pull into this house right here now. The woman that lives there needs a hug. And she said, she's like, what? And she's a woman, and this is a strange house. She doesn't even know who these people are. But she said it was so intense and she couldn't deny it. And she reflected on what we'd been talking about, and I've been telling her the importance, like when these things come, even if you don't understand them, react to them. This is how God is training us. We're in boot camp right now. We're soldiers for Christ. We're in the army of God here, and we're in our training right now. I'm in it. You're in it. We're all in this together. We haven't done this in the past. We haven't understood it. We didn't know how to do it. We know now. We're learning. She did it. And this is with the baby too. A strange person's house, that's not something that's something that I have told her for, the logical brain, don't do that, for goodness sake. Are you kidding me? If I was there, maybe, but you not being there. But she said she couldn't deny it. It was so powerful that she just knew that this was something she had to react on. She turned in. She was embarrassed, didn't know what to do. She went up to the door, knocked on the door, stranger's door, and a woman opened the door. It was a woman she knew. It was a woman that she had met from a homeschooling conference in up in the town we live in, I think, or some acquaintance, book club or something to like, Bible study, one of those things. I don't know that she was a friend, but had met, more of an acquaintance. And she said, I stood there and I just said, I'm sorry, but the Holy Spirit told me I need to pull in here and to give you a hug. Well, it just so happened that her and her husband were going through an extreme difficulty, and she was really, really having a hard time, and God knew about this. And Mrs. W, because she reacted to this, was able to be an instrument for the gospel, to be an instrument, and the encouragement that was drawn. This was a miracle for not only for my family, but for Mrs. W and for her friend, and she was able to sit there and spend time with her and comfort and just be a great comfort and a friend to this woman that she told me when she got home, she goes, I didn't even know she lived there. I had no idea where she lived. I just didn't know anyone lived there, anyone we knew lived there, but I had to do it and I reacted upon it. That's what I'm talking about right there. And those things are going to be more and more, they're going to happen more and more. They're going to be more and more common. And it was a great encouragement to our family and all that. And I know there's going to be people that doubt, and that's fine. You should doubt when you hear these things. Miracles are not reliable. Never build a theology or a faith on miracles. Look at miracles as a wonderful benefit that you didn't need to have it. I don't need miracles for me to trust God, but if he sees fit to let me experience something like that, that's a great blessing. But that's for me, that's for our family, that's for Mrs. W, and that's for her friend that got to experience that. That was for them. That was a reassurance for them. I will share this with you. You can take it for what you want. You can explain it away all you want, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. I'm not building a theology on that. I'm not saying, if this isn't happening to you, then you're not a Christian. If this isn't happening to you, then God is not with you. I'm not saying that at all. It's been years and years since I've experienced anything like that. And maybe I won't, and I wasn't even there. I'm relaying it secondhand as well. But I know my wife, and I know she's an honest, trustworthy person, and that I know that this happened. I'm just as confident as if I was there myself. So these things are going to happen, and we need to react to them. And how you react, like the fact that she reacted to that, or that you have an experience where you react to that, that is a reassurance to God that you can be trusted. And if he can trust you with a small thing like that, if you'll go and you'll push against your comfort level and push against maybe not even understanding why you're doing something just because he wants you to do it, if you're willing to just follow that lead, then there will be greater responsibilities that are given to you. And Christ told us, he says in the last days, when he was with the disciples and he was healing the sick and raising the dead and all that, they were marveling. And he said, why are you marveling? I'll tell you the truth that my people, my church in the latter days, they'll do a lot greater things than these. What's greater than what he did? Greater than raising the dead? Greater than healing leprosy? Greater than restoring limbs, curing all manner of disease, walking on water? Greater than those? That's what he said. So we're in boot camp. We're in training right now. That's the baby step. That's where we start. How we react, God is testing his soldiers. Who will respond to me? Who's going to be of use to me? That I cannot get the story of Gideon out of my mind. Go and read the story of Gideon. Go in the Old Testament and read the story of Gideon, how God picked who the brave soldiers were out of his army by the test at the water. That's how he tested them. He's testing us the same way. Will you respond? Are you one of the soldiers that kept situational awareness, that drank from the hand and didn't get down and drink like a dog? That's where we're at. That story, I cannot get that story of Gideon out of my mind. That is something that God has been bringing back and back into my mind all the time, that this is a testing time. How will we respond? I had to make a decision. Will I continue to keep God and my faith and religion in the background and put pure profits and future growth and future viability as the number one and him number two, maybe bring him in once in a while so I couldn't be blameless, but not really making it the focus, but being ashamed and being, keeping that in the background? Or am I going to be bold? Am I going to be a soldier for Christ? That's the decision I made. And all the cards, whatever happens, happens. And where the cards fall, they will. So we're done apologizing. We're done being on the back foot and making excuses or trying to justify. No, we're on the vanguard. We're at the tip. We're not apologizing anymore. And we're going to raise our banners and we're going to go forward boldly and with faith and courage, as Christian soldiers will. But there are very few that will. And the separation is taking place right now. 2.25 million subscribers on this channel, and there are 400 of us right now. Narrow be the way and few be that find us. You are very, very privileged, beloved, to be here and to be part of this, if you're hearing this and you're responding to this, because God's calling many, but very, very few will respond. It's a great privilege. We are beyond reproach. We have a super chat from Neon Flare. Shout out to you, Neon. And Neon writes, "Give that kitty cat some pets." I know, Mama. I have to be careful. She bit me one time when I woke her from a nap. Oh, I know. How are you, Mama? Never enough love. Brown Tabby. She's almost nearly 18 years old. She's been with me since the early days. She's been with me as long as Jack's been with me. Yeah, that's her best right there, right on the forehead. She's a good mama. Oh, thank you, Neon. That was, Mama Kitty appreciates that. Yeah. She's not a tame lion, I'll tell you that. We have a super chat from Luke Blundell and new member. Shout out to you, Luke. Welcome. Luke says, "Have you seen any of the NeoMag products? The Alias holster attachment system is fantastic for EDC airsoft." No, I've never heard of it. NeoMag, new mag. Neo means new. I don't know. No, I'll have to check that out. I'll be when I close down here. Today, Sabbath starts tonight, sunset, and so usually I like to try to knock off around 1, 2, a little bit early, and just start winding the day down. Help Mrs. W get things kind of finalized and picked up, get cleaned up, and then just this evening, if you haven't done it, even if you're a secular person, an atheist, you're welcome here. Don't feel like you're not welcome here. I get it. You will benefit from it as well. All of you benefit from it as well. Make it important. Make something that also don't make it you can make it a burden too. You can look at it as like, oh, we can't do this and can't do that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's between you and your God, that decision. Some people say that they don't feel like that they should go out and eat, go out to a restaurant because folks are working to serve them. Some people say that that's fine, that they just look at it as their own family, and it's not for anyone else to judge you. You'll have to decide, and you'll have to just respond to how God convicts you. Have a special meal planned, or order up some pizza, something that if you have kids that they can look forward to, that it's not a burden to them, where you can spring these things on them and not now like, well, so we can't do anything now, and then you just rip the guts out of it. The Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So it needs to be a blessing to you, not a curse. And most of the people that I know keep it, well, maybe not most, but a good portion of them have turned it into a curse. And don't do that. Make it something special. Make something for the kids to look forward to. Maybe your kids like to do something that you've not got involved with. Maybe they like to play video games, or they like to play board games, or watch a particular movie that you don't like. Make it special for all of them. Get your family around you. just start a simple tradition, just light a candle. It's not mandatory. It's just something that kind of just gets everyone's mind in the right area. Light a candle when the sun comes down. You can find that on your phone. And just take 24 hours for your family and for yourself and just relax. Just breathe and focus on being grateful and having gratitude for what God has done for you, on how the things that you have, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And it's when you wake up Sabbath morning, the relief knowing that there's no obligation to go out and do stuff, jump back on the remodel or go work on this or go work on that. It's like, no, we're not doing that. It will liberate you. It will give you a guilt-free day to recoup and recover. Life is hard. There's a reason why so many of us men are dying from heart disease and stress, because we work hard, and we have to work harder now than we've ever, just to keep food on the table. But if you honor God in that way, by keeping his Sabbath day holy, he will honor you. And it's one of those incredible things that I'll never be able to understand, but everything in your mind, in your thinking, intellectual mind, will tell you, I'm going to have less because I'm working one day less. If you honor God in this and try, you'll have more. I don't know. Cast your bread upon many waters, the good book tells us, and it will return to you manyfold. When we give, that's a test of faith, especially when we give out of our need. That's when the true blessings seem to come. Oh, I'm excited about thinking about it. There's no greater blessing in the week than having that 24 hours, that respite from the cares and the burdens of work and worry. We have another super chat from Mr. Jason Barr. Jason says, I'm convinced that God is drawn to our crisis. He moves through his people. Let us pick up the banner daily. Yes, and Jason's right, and we have scripture for that. You know, God says, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, do you know what he says? Oh, I just have intense goosebumps come over me when I said that. Whenever two or three are gathered together in my name, he says, then I am there also. That's a promise. And he didn't say in person. You know, that would be nice, but that's not possible for all of us. We live in a different world now. But we are certainly gathered here together in his name, and he is here amongst it. And this is a good time with the Sabbath coming. The Sabbath is a day that God has set aside, and he says he's sanctified it. What does it mean to be sanctified? He's made it holy. It's a special time for prayer. It's a time when God is very, very close to you. And if you have not kept it before, if you are a new Christian, there's just so many stories. There's really, God can be very close to you, and tremendous blessings can come from this. And even if you don't understand it, you don't have to understand it. Just say, you know what, we're going to try this. Sounds like there might be something to it. You know, I need to investigate it. Try it. What do you have to lose? And see. Tell me that God doesn't honor you and bless you for making a step towards him, and will be in the midst of your very house, wherever you're at. He's proven. He's never let me down. I've doubted him. I've wrung my hands. I've worried and stewed. He's never let me down. He's always come through. Just try it and drink water. We have a new member, our brand newest member, NE21. Shout out to you and welcome. Thank you for your faithfulness. And Gary Reardon. Shout out to you, Gary. Gary's been with us for 3 years. Super chat. All right. Well, we just hit the 2-hour mark. It seems that the 2-hour mark is where it's at. That's the golden time. I am so grateful to have you here, beloved. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your time. Thank you for supporting us. It's a great blessing to me. It's a great encouragement. All right. Well, and Woos, our last member, last one. I'm going to check out. Have a great weekend. I'll be putting up periodically some stuff for members. You guys said you wanted just cell phone stuff, just random stuff. It's easy for me to do. I'll be happy to do that. We'll be putting that up. If it's possible, we'll do a member stream. It won't make any guarantees, but if it does, I'll make that announcement. And if you are a member, you'll get that notification. But thank you and welcome to all the new members. Keep us in your prayers. May God bless you and your families. We pray for you constantly. We'll see you guys in the next one.